This exploration of looking into what's going on in our experience. We started with, and we've been focusing for the last month on Michael Singer's teachings from this particular talk. As we're working with it, he's really gone through a series of steps. It really aligns well with what's going on in our nervous system. Regulating our nervous system is really essential in order to have access to the deeper wisdom in our mind, the deeper wisdom in our heart. And also, it strengthens our capacity to be a witness to our experience. We're not a far off witness through a looking glass from a long ways away. We're right here in the experience, and we're also aware that we're having the experience. And we work with this all the time is, can I stay present in this moment? When I've got an energy in my body, when I'm resisting something, not accepting life as it is, when I'm afraid of something, that tends to put us into a nervous system response of fight, flight, or freeze. From fight, flight, or freeze, we might be kind of dull and unaware, which is not a very safe place to be. We might be going into ruminating about the past or catastrophizing about the future. Those are very common patterns that we're all familiar with. And the higher level of vigilance in the nervous system, the more intensity and the more we get caught in that trance of the past or the future. One of the ways that he's suggesting that we work with this is to bring witness consciousness to this whole experience. By that, in part, all he means is be aware of what's happening right now. That somatic mindfulness component. As we're having a thought, or as we're going into a fight response, can we notice that that's what's happening and then come back into regulation? And then very specifically, he talks about the heart being strong. Partly what he means about that is, as emotions come into awareness, they release their energy out of the heart chakra. But when we're talking about the heart chakra, we're talking about emotional heart center as well as spiritual heart center. These steps that we take, we build resilience through awareness and through practice. So as we start to know how to listen to our body, that we're aware of what's happening in our body, the energy, the sensations, we are aware that we're getting off kilter. We're aware that we have some thoughts that are coming in that are not true, perhaps inner critic thoughts. We might notice earlier that we're holding our breath, that we've gone back to that pattern. So this is all the regular nervous system work that we do all the time. And as we become more stable in our nervous system regulation, as we're more accurate in our neuroception is our direct experience of safety in this moment. And it works through a negativity bias, and things that were actually not safe for us as a child are many of those things we can easily handle now. We're trying to make our present moment experience more accurate, but also that we're more aware. So our regulated adult self is here. And as parts arise that are scared or that are not convinced that it's safe to be here, we're able to regulate with them. This deep stillness in the mind that is always here is not available to us when we're in fight, flight, or freeze. A lot of these practices, and I realize that these are advanced practices of staying with, of noticing, of witnessing, and not getting carried away into a train of thought. Or if we get carried away, then we come back. Most of us have that kind of in and out. Sometimes we're really caught up in what's going on, and that's fine too. Sometimes we're caught up in the past, though, or we're worried about the future. We're in a fight, flight, or freeze. We are trying to set a boundary with somebody, and we're really frustrated, or there's all of these human interactions that happen. Or maybe we're feeling like we really want to have more social interaction, and we've got too much anxiety for that. Coming back into regulation is what we need to do on a daily life basis. That's what makes our daily life really work. And also, it's the gateway to deeper spiritual states and to knowing our higher wisdom. This is the practice we're going to do. I know this to be true through my own experience, and I am sure that everybody here does. As we become more comfortable with the energy in our heart, which partly means we're not avoiding or suppressing emotion, then our mind becomes quieter. And it might be our mind becomes quieter because we're not feeding it a bunch of distraction. If there's something we literally cannot afford to feel, there's a lot of different ways that our culture supports that through movies and podcasts and video games and screens and all of the different things that we use to entertain our mind. It's not a bad thing to entertain our mind sometimes. It's why are we doing it? And if it's to avoid feeling, then eventually the cost becomes too high. We will only do what feels safe enough for us to do. Our adult self needs to be here and present, and that way we can be a resource for those traumatized parts, our younger self. We don't have to fix what happens or what happened in the past. Oftentimes, there's really nothing we can do. Something happened and it was abusive or it was distressing or traumatic, and it is in the past. And what's still here in this moment is the fear or the sensation or the trauma that's stored in our body. And that's what we can do something about. We can work with that. The more regulated we are, the more we can stay with that. Let's do this as a somatic inquiry. Become aware of the whole of your body, head to toes. Notice what's here. If you were pure awareness and you're aware of what's happening right now, what would you notice? What would you notice in your body? You might notice that your shoulders are up around your ears a bit, or you're clenching your teeth, holding your breath. We could start with the physical. That's often a good place to start. You could take a few deeper breaths, longer, slow exhales. Let yourself regulate. Come back into regulation in this moment. And anytime things get to be too much, you could do something that would be grounding. You could hold your own hands, feel the support of your hands, the warmth. You could notice your feet and seat. Where are you connected with the earth? If you're really caught up in thoughts, you could do something like put the thoughts in a frame on the other side of the room with your eyes open. Look at that. Notice the thought, the frame, the space on the outside. Take your eyes around the empty space a few times in each direction. We have lots of ways that we can come back into witness consciousness, present to ourselves. Notice your whole body, your breath, and then let's tune in specifically to the energy in the heart area, the heart center, the chest area. And just like sometimes when we're watching thoughts, we'll situate our awareness behind the head and watch thoughts come and go. And in the heart center, we might do something similar. Your awareness was just behind your heart center. What would you be noticing? On a physical level, we might be noticing the breath, and we could use that to regulate. You might be noticing there's sensation or energy there. In particular, we're interested in what does my heart know that I could know? Is there anything that it would like me to know? We're doing this as a practice, so we're taking it kind of slow. We don't have to know every single thing right at this moment. As you're sitting and resting in the heart, notice what comes forward. Notice where your mind goes. You might be sitting in stillness. You might have thought about something else and you're on a train of thought about something else. That's really the way the mind works, that one layer of the mind. So, not to worry about that. Just situate yourself in your body again. Take a breath and come back into resting in the heart center. What does my heart know? And in particular, in this somatic inquiry, we're noticing my reaction to what's here. Sometimes, if a really warm, loving feeling comes in, just we're fine with that one. Other times, it might be a distressing memory. It might be a sense of an age. And maybe we could move into comforting our younger self. We might put our hand on our heart or bring that younger self into our awareness in this moment. When we're younger, we don't have the capacity, the resources that we do now. So we listen and we support, we connect. We notice sensation. Is our heart and chest still and open and warm? Is it contracted or tight? Is there heaviness? And whatever it is that's coming and going in the heart, could we stay as a witness to that? Let the emotion come in. Sometimes we might want to move into a connection with that younger self. Other times we could let it just be here. We don't have to get involved in the memory. We could stay with the sensation and let it be here. We might notice that we could support our witnessing, our consciousness through a longer breath, through awareness in our body. And if you get caught up in any kind of an inner critic storm, see if you could turn away from that. It's not true. And it's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for not the nervous system train of thought, but our wisdom in our heart. Try not to get caught up in that shame or deficiency. That's not true. In my heart, can I rest in my heart? What does my heart know? Staying present with the somatic experience in the heart. Part of it might be helpful to kind of notice the qualities of the sensation. Oh, it's really heavy right now. It's moving, it's still. We might notice the space around that area where the sensation isn't. It's not taking up the whole universe, it's in this specific location. And from this awareness of the sensation, and that it is coming, it's arising, and it's not going to be here forever. We know that through experience. Could I witness it? Could I allow it to be here and then move through? Experience that sensation is not actually a threat. It's not actually dangerous right now. Keep coming back to the quiet. Listen what's happening in the heart. It might not be that peaceful, or it might be. What is it that's coming forward? What is it that's moving through? And aware that you're witnessing that experience, that perspective shift. Watching what's coming and going in the heart center. And then also bringing to mind, what is it that you learned, either about the content of emotion that was coming through or the patterns? Did you notice that as you were listening in your heart, you quite often got in a train of thought about a certain thing? Or maybe it was about nothing in particular, that you had to keep bringing your focus back? Did you have a lot of sensation? Did you have associated thoughts, memories? What was your experience over the last several minutes? It's really helpful to know this, to know what's going on, what are our patterns, how do we avoid being present with our heart. And then we can watch for that in the future, we can work with that. Coming back just to the stillness for a moment, I rest in my heart and I listen. What does my heart know?